It is currently past 3 in the morning as I'm recording this, and you may be sitting there thinking, why are you doing this to yourself, man? If it's 3 in the morning, sleep. But, been kind of falling behind the ball a bit lately, so I pulled an all-nighter. I even had a cup of coffee, the paper towels in it to keep the flies out. And I pushed through anyway. I watched all 5 episodes of this arc, and now we're going to talk about it. So, what's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Mission Station, where there's for anything and everything in Mission, including TV and movies, and especially anime. I am your host and local anime fanatic, and very much pushing his limits, Jackson Small. Welcome to my early in the morning review for the Rehabilitation training arc of Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba. 2 days late, because a lot's been going on lately, not to mention, football. And if you know me, I try to always watch football whenever it's on. I literally just watched a game last night, where I just watched the Vikings and the Bears, so... oh yeah, that's the worst game of the week, by the way. Also, let me know in the comments if you guys would be interested in me doing an NFL channel. I'd be pretty interested in doing one if there's interest from you guys. Because I know that there are some NFL fans in my subscribers, and I know that some of you want me to bring back predictions with Mount Giddy, so please let me know in the comments if you want me to do like a separate channel for NFL and all that stuff. But anyway, I'm stalling for time here. Let's get straight into the Rehabilitation training arc. This may be 5 episodes, but enough happens that it literally fills the entire page. An entire 1 page off of 5 episodes. The things that I do for content, right? Alright, let's get into it. So, it starts with Tanjiro and Giyu standing on trial before the Hashira for protecting Nezuko, which is where we left off in the previous arc. Then Tsunemi, which we find out later is the brother of Genya, ends up stabbing Nezuko, causing Tanjiro to retaliate by headbutting him in anger despite being, bound and stuck on the ground. Then that is when we meet Kaguya Ubuyashiki, the head of the Demon Slayer Corps, who arrives to begin the trial. Much to the dismay of most of the Hashira, though, Kaguya immediately pardons Tanjiro and Nezuko, seeing that they are trustworthy in his eyes. And that's when Hinaki Ubuyashiki, sorry for my bad mispronunciation, reads a letter that was sent from them by Urukudaki, which justifies Kaguya's decision to most of the other Hashira. And Kaguya reveals that Tanjiro has seen Muzan, completely shocking the Hashira because the Hashira, despite all their talent and skill and higher up ranks in the Demon Slayer Corps, none of them has seen Muzan face to face, so obviously they're all extremely shocked to hear that part. But that's when Tsunemi decides to slit his arm wide open, trying to bait Nezuko with his blood as she's still in the box and still recovering from the first stab. And then that's when Kaguya keeps telling Tsunemi, stop harming the girl. But Tsunemi, being the crazy SOB that he is, YouTube does not like swearing in the first 5 minutes of a video, so I'm trying to save it until after 5 minutes. Please excuse me. He defies Kaguya's order, takes Nezuko into the shadows inside the little house, and keeps stabbing her more. And this forces her to come out of hiding, ending episode 22, with it being uncertain whether or not she will actually take off her muzzle and try to eat Tsunemi, as he very clearly wants her to do, just so he has an excuse to kill her. However, much to Tsunemi's dismay, Nezuko refuses the temptation, which impresses Kaguya and pushes his point forward that she will not eat a human, and shows how strong that Urokudaki's hypnosis was on her. Then Kaguya asks Tanjiro to convince the unconvinced among the Hashira about Nezuko, by continuously hunting down and killing the Lower Kizuki, as he and her are both accepted now as Slayers. Yes, even Nezuko. With their business concluded, Tanjiro and Nezuko are taken to the Butterfly Mansion, which is Shinobu's domain. However, it's not without a fight because Tanjiro wants to give Tsunemi the amount of headbutts, the equivalent of the amount of stabs that he gave to Nezuko, which justified in his case, but since he's, back-talking the master, he obviously takes a few pebbles to the face from one of the Hashira, gets the lower rank people from Shinobu's camp that are carrying the two of them in trouble, and that leads to the entire way there Tanjiro being punched in the face by the other one. It's pretty funny. Like, I can't really do justice. I'm really just hitting the main points in a summary. You really gotta watch these shows for yourself to really see how funny some of these moments are. Then Tanjiro is reunited with Zenitsu and Inosuke in the medical ward of the mansion. And Inosuke immediately apologizes for being weak, showing a more humble side of himself after, almost dying. Tanjiro then reflects with Nezuko later on how many have helped them along the way, ending episode 23. Then Rengoku leaves for a mission, the Flame Hashira, and we're going to learn more about him later, and also we're going to mourn him tomorrow, because tomorrow we get to the thing that ends up in the first Hashira end of the entire show, and it's going to be tough to talk about, to say the least. And then, as he leaves, Shinobu prepares training for Tanjiro and company. Then Tanjiro ends up being reunited with Murata, the higher ranked Slayer that he met on Mount Natagumo that wasn't controlled by threads, while the rest of his comrades were getting slaughtered and used as puppets. And he informs them of the Hashira's disappointment in the lower ranks of the Demon Slayer Corps, thinking they haven't been trained hard enough. Which, valid, considering how bold the demons are getting. Then Tanjiro and Inosuke are taken to rehabilitation training, which leaves Zenitsu to heal, because his limbs still have yet to grow back to their normal size after having shrunken down because of his mid-transformation into a spider, because of the poison. So, he needs extra time to heal. But then Zenitsu joins them the next day, sees how brutal rehabilitation training is, and grills them both for it. Not to mention also grilling them for getting to spend all day with girls. Classic Zenitsu. Then Zenitsu uses his passion for girls to excel in the training over Tanjiro and Inosuke. For a little bit. That is until they have to face Kanao, and all of them get their ass kicked. Then, after 5 days straight of losing to Kanao, both Inosuke and Zenitsu leave rehabilitation training having lost their spark after getting humiliated by a girl. I'm not saying that to be sexist, it's literally the way that they put it in the show. That's when Tanjiro ends up taking on personal training with Kanao, trying to strategize how to win, and continuously losing to her, over and over again. But Tanjiro being Tanjiro, he refuses to give up. After talking with some admirers, Tanjiro begins total concentration breathing 24/7, something that they were talking about, saying how Kanao had even mastered that despite her not being a Hashira. Then, after 15 days of intense training, while Tanjiro is meditating on the roof and still trying to learn how to do total concentration breathing, or as we find out it's called later, total concentration breathing constant. Anime, not me. Blame it for the weird names. Tanjiro finds himself joined on the roof of the Butterfly Mansion by Shinobu. And then Shinobu asks Tanjiro to fulfill her dream of befriending demons, to which he agrees, of course. And then Tanjiro, because of his acute sense of smell, senses her unseen anger, and Shinobu explains it's because of how her sister was killed by demons, and how as much as she wants to befriend demons, she just can't find it in her soul to do it. But she does say how it warms her heart seeing Tanjiro doing what she can't, and then she takes her leave, leaving him to his training, and him becoming more determined than ever to save Nezuko, ending episode 24. Then Tanjiro continues his training, increasing his stamina, but he continues to lose to Kanao every single day, and Tanjiro manages to break the small gourd, showing that he has gotten better as total concentration breathing constant. But now he has to move on and break the larger one that Kanao herself has broken, and it's literally the size of him, which makes it extra arduous. Please excuse the traffic in the background. Then Zenitsu and Inosuke, seeing Tanjiro doing as well as he is, return to training, now headed by Shinobu and aided by Tanjiro in between his own training that he's doing personally now, because he's so much farther along than the other two. Then a flashback reveals how Kanao was abused, treated as a slave, and then saved by Shinobu and her sister, as she was then bought by them. Now, it sounds bad, but trust me, they did it for a good cause. They cleaned her up, and they gave her this coin that supposedly is supposed to help her make decisions when she's not given orders by Shinobu or her sister. And since the sister is dead, because of a demon, obviously the only one that can give her orders now is Shinobu. Then Tanjiro and Inosuke are given new Nichirin swords after theirs having broken the previous arc, and Inosuke immediately puts serrations in his using a stone from the little pond in the Butterfly Mansion, obviously very much angering the swordsmith. After the swordsmith that was accompanying the other swordsmith beat the crap out of Tanjiro for breaking his sword. Which is, again, a funny callback to the speech Rokodaki made at the very beginning of this show. Then, Tanjiro masters his total concentration breathing constant, and finally beats Kanao in everything. He beats her in tag, he beats her in the medical water cup thing. He ends up beating her in all of it, now having gotten fast enough to, get the wins. Even though he does end up finishing 10-10 as Aoi tells him later. Then Tanjiro completes his training and prepares to face the 12 Kizuki again, as he's still determined to get more samples to give to Lady Tameo to try and find a cure for Nezuko. Meanwhile, a demon then appears on the Mugen Train and kills a passenger, ending episode 25, which we later find out is the mission that Rengoku is being sent on to find the Mugen Train that actually has this demon, and slay it. That's his job. Then we rewind to a few months back, where Muzan and the Lower Kizuki meet in the Infinity Castle. Yes, after 25 plus episodes, we finally see the Infinity Castle for the first time. And it is one of the coolest fucking things I think I have ever seen in anime. Like, it's pretty much the demon blood art drum thing from Kyogai and from the Suzumi Mansion arc on fucking steroids. That's pretty much exactly what it is, because it's never ending, it's always changing, and there's no escape from it. And we find out later that all these Kizuki were literally brought here by Muzan, and they themselves have not seen this Infinity Castle before. But it's a pretty damn cool introduction to what's going to become a pivotal setting towards the end of this story. So, very cool. And it's very cool to see it for the first time, all the way at the end of the very first season of the show. Angered by Rui's death and the Lower Kizuki's lack of having murdered humans recently, Muzan absolutely slaughters all of the Lower Kizuki except for Enmu, who is literally about to accept death until Muzan gives him a little dose of his blood and sends him out to kill Hashira, as he very clearly states, Hashira and the one wearing the earrings, obviously Tanjiro, because he still has a vendetta against him. Then, as soon as morning breaks, Tanjiro and Co are ordered by Kaguya via the Crow to assist Rengoku on the Mugen Train. It's then revealed later that Tanjiro was personally recommended for it by Shinobu, because of his kind heart and how much he's recovered since his previous fight. Then Tanjiro bids farewell to Aoi and Kanao, touching both their hearts with his kind words, and probably getting Kanao to start crushing on him, because of the way that they do the coin flip and how he manages to convince her to follow her heart. Cutest moment of the freaking show, man. I love these two. They have such great chemistry together. Which, if you have read the manga already, you already know where that's going to end up. Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu end up breaking the large gourds with their total concentration breathing constant as their training finally ends 100% for good. Then the three board the train after some hilarious shenanigans from Inosuke trying to ram the train, which gets the cops on them, and Tanjiro being confused by the presence of a train since he grew up in a rural mountain village. Has never seen a train before in his life. So literally Zenitsu is the only one that knows about automotive transportation. And it's pretty funny. And then the three board the train, which ends episode 26, the Rehabilitation training arc, and the first season of the show. Yeah, it literally took this long to get to the end of the first season. Think about that. We have had how many arcs in this one season? Let's see. We had Final Selection, that's 1. Kidnapper's Bog, that's 2. Asakusa, that's 3. Suzumi Mansion, that's 4. Mount Nadaguma, that's 5. Rehabilitation Train, 6. There have been 6 arcs in one season. That's nuts. Especially if you consider, if you give me a sec to pull out an example here. Especially if you consider something like Dragon Ball Z Kai, for example. This is pretty much the entire Saiyan Saga and only a few episodes of the Frieza Saga. So, like a saga and a half in 26 episodes of this. But in 26 episodes of Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, 6 full arcs. That's insane. Like, that is legitimately mind-blowing. That they covered that much ground in the same amount of episodes it took DBZ Kai to finish one arc and start another one. That's insane. And that's going to lead straight into the Mugen Train movie. Now, there is also an arc on Mugen Train, but due to a shortage of time, I can only do the movie. I will talk about the differences between the movie and the arc at another point. It ain't going to be right now. And once again, I have no written review for you, so just my full off-the-cuff thoughts about the Rehabilitation training arc of Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba. This is a great arc. It technically kind of counts as filler because there isn't really much action to it. It's more of just them recovering from their injuries, getting better at their total concentration breathing, and some slight character development as we're met with the Hashira. We learn a little bit more about Shinobu, and a little bit more about Kanao as well, after having only seen her in cameos in the Mount Nadagumo and Final Selection arcs. But since there isn't much action, I can definitely see why some people think that this is one of the weaker arcs of the show. But honestly, even the weaker arcs of the show are still great. There's still plenty of stuff to enjoy, it's just not in the same way as other arcs. Now, is it better than the Mount Nadagumo arc? No. That is still my favorite arc in the show up to this point. However, it's still a damn great arc, and it still has its fair share of pros and cons. What are the cons? Pacing's bad, Zenitsu gets annoying, and there is some filler. But once you get around all that, it's actually plenty satisfying to see everyone recover, and Tanjiro learning more about concentration breathing, and of course meeting the Hashira, which is a treat, even if it only lasts for the first 2 episodes of the arc. But it's pretty cool. Not to mention it's cool to see that Shinobu actually has a heart underneath all her very disturbing malice. So, yeah. Honestly, with all that said, yes, it is one of the weaker arcs of this show, but it's still a damn good arc, regardless. And that is why its final verdict is an 8 out of 10. Yes, it's one of the lower ranked ones in the saga, in the series, but it's still great. It's just lower by Demon Slayer standards, which are exponentially higher than most anime. No, I'm not glazing, that's me 100% telling you my honest opinion. This show kicks ass, and this is just another entry into that. It's a pretty great arc to go out for your first season. And again, it's cool that we got to see the Infinity Castle in Season 1. That's really cool. So, that is going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will have reviews for both the Mugen Train movie and the Entertainment District arc tomorrow. Oh, also I should note, there are 3 recap movies that pretty much sum up everything that happens in these 26 episodes into 3 movies. Siblings Bond, Mount Natagumo, and the Hashira meeting. I'm not going to cover those, obviously, they're recap movies, so they're just covering the same ground. So, tomorrow will be a movie review, but it's going to be a full spoiler one because I want to keep it somewhat consistent with the rest of this marathon. So, I'll see you guys next time when we dive into Mugen Train, one of the highest grossing, highest praised anime movies of the past 10-20 years. See you then. Until then, thanks for watching. See you next time. Keep slaying.